Each year, athletes from across the globe converge on Haines City, Florida, test the limits of their bodies and the resilience of their spirits at Ironman Florida 70.3. This documentary invites you behind the scenes of an athlete's return to triathlon after a forced 4-year hiatus, a story of grit, ambition, and unwavering dedication. From early morning swims to relentless training rides beneath the hot and humid summer sun and pounding footfalls on winding roads, we will witness the evolution of a competitor with a humble and grateful heart striving for redemption. But this is more than a race. It is a voyage through adversity and triumph. Through moments of doubt and bursts of inspiration, there will be setbacks and surprises, victories large and small, and the discovery of the true meaning of perseverance. Join us as we chronicle the milestones and missteps, the sweat and celebration culminating in one unforgettable day. This will not only be a tale of athletic determination, but a portrait of the human spirit, undaunted, unbreakable, and ever reaching for the extraordinary. Welcome to Ironman Florida 70.3, an endurance athlete's journey. Welcome, everyone, to the completion of week 1 of the road to Ironman Florida 70.3. My name is Justin, and I am the head coach and owner of Tabula Rasa Racing. So a little bit more on if you missed the last week's episode, that was kind of the introduction on how I kind of came upon this opportunity to race Ironman Florida 70.3 and a little bit more of my backstory. So if you haven't watched that one yet, I would highly recommend just going back and checking that out. It's like a 30-minute video, so it gives you a little bit more of the backstory on how this opportunity came about and kind of what my focus and purpose is for this race. So my idea for these weekly videos, I don't want them to be kind of like this performance metric driven interpretation, analysis kind of stuff on how training is going. I mean, if you're at all interested in it, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. You can go to tabularasaracing.com and you can send me a message, or you can reach out to me on any of the social media platforms. I'm available. But my purpose for this is more just to tell the story. All right. I want to be vulnerable and transparent and open to what this process is for me and what I kind of go through in preparation for this race after being away for the sport for so long. It's been 4 years of a bit of a break, but that's talked about in the intro video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spend my time talking about how each of the disciplines went for the week. So we have swim, bike, run, and strength. Those are the 4 major components of my training plan. And I'll talk a little bit about, I'll just kind of mention how my nutrition went, or, things that I would like to focus on improving, things that are going well, things that are not going so well, that need to be adapted to, things that I can improve on, things that are successes. So I'm just interested in just kind of telling you the story. So let's jump right on in. I've got some notes here. So if you see me looking down, I'm kind of trying to keep myself on track so I don't ramble on. So let's start with just an overall view of how my training went for the week in terms of training volume. So week 1, I had a plan that was 16 hours and 15 minutes worth of training that's spread over the 4 disciplines. They are not evenly spread. I have some heavy concentrations in some than in others. And so my plan was, like I said, 16:15. I put in 16:45. So I was a touch long. The extra duration came from a couple of my strength workouts, which I'll talk about when I talk about the strength stuff, on kind of my approach on how I'm focusing on my strength training for this block, and my long ride. So that was the explanation for the extra time. So one thing so let's just start with, I'm just going to jump right into my run training. I had a pretty solid week of run training. So because I'm dealing with persistent Achilles issues and a little bit of pain in some of the other tendons that are in my feet, I can't run like I really want to. And so I have humbled myself and I'm using a run walk method for now. And we'll see how this progresses. If I'm able to progress out of this kind of protocol, that would be really, really good. I would really enjoy that. But I'm not quite sure that that's where this plan is going to go. So I've come to terms with maybe I have to just use a run walk protocol, and that's what I'll be executing for race day. And so, but it was a really, really good week. So if I'm going to be building out a page on the tabularasaracing.com website that is dedicated to Ironman Florida 70.3, and there I will actually be posting the actual structured workouts that I did for the week. So there'll be a graphic that'll be on there that will show you the actual workouts, the swim workouts that I did, the run workouts, the bike, my strength sessions, and so forth. So if you want to see those details, head on out to tabularasaracing.com and you'll be able to see those free of charge. There's no, Patreon or whatever. So, I'm being completely transparent and open here. And so I did a 4-to-1, 4-to-4. I did 4-to-2s and 4-to-4 ratios. So 4-minute run, 2-minute walk, and then on the longer runs, I did a 4x4. And so I was actually able to push the pace a little bit faster than what I've been able to do lately. As I'm just coming back from running, I took some time off because I tried to start back running again, and then my Achilles were just starting to heat up. And I kind of got to about 30 minutes of consistent running, and they were still kind of running hot. And I know that that's not going to be manageable and doable for a half marathon. And so that's the reason why I'm approaching this as a run walk protocol for now. It does allow me to load up the Achilles and my feet and then give it a chance to deload during the walking intervals. And so my thought process is that I'll actually be able to hopefully run the run segments faster than if I were to just try and run the whole thing. So even though, if I can push the pace during the run interval and then I'll lose some of that time when I start to walk, overall, my pace may be reasonable if I were to try and attempt to run the whole thing. I'm not saying that I'm not going to try. I'm going to still work really hard in progressing this and see where it goes. But I am okay with a run walk if that's the way it's going to work out. But I was able actually to see some paces that I haven't seen in a long time, especially on Saturday. I did a short run. So it was one of my short runs before my bike. And so the only reason that I'm doing the run and bike on the same day on Saturday with my long ride is scheduling purposes only. This is not brick training. That comes later. And so what I want to do is I want to focus on being able to run with good form, which is why I run before the bike during this phase of the training plan. Later on, when I get into more of a build to the peak phase, then I'll reverse that. And I've got a blog post that is on tabularasaracing.com on the role of the brick workout. There is also, wait a minute, I don't know if I have the blog, but I know that there's a podcast episode that we did for the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast. One of the episodes was on the role of the brick workout. So if you want to learn a little bit more on my thoughts on how we use bricks or how I feel like they should be used and how I implement them in my plans and how I use them in my athlete plans, go on and check that out. I'm not quite sure what the episode number was, but it was one of the earlier ones. And so you'll see some of my ideas. I'm also implementing something that I haven't really done before, and that's rotating shoes. So one of the things that I used to do is I was a big Hoka fan. I've ran in Hokas for years, and I do love the shoe. It works well, and it's got a 4-millimeter drop, which works well for me because I have more of a mid-foot strike. So I'm not a heel striker, but I do have Achilles issues. And so at the urging of one of my PTs and my chiropractor, he said, maybe go and try a larger heel toe drop shoe, which means a heel toe drop shoe is the distance between the stack height, which is going to be the distance between the shoe and the ground for the toe versus the shoe and the ground in the heel. And so zero drop shoes, that stack height is flat. But for a positive heel toe drop, the heels are going to sit up higher than the toes, and Hoka's run at a 4 millimeter drop. So I switched to a shoe that was about a 6 millimeter drop, which is not that much of a difference, but I don't know if it was just the cushioning of the shoe, the way that the sole is put together, but it really flared up my other foot. So I have Achilles issues in my right foot. Now I've got some, I don't know if it's like a plantar fasciitis kind of thing, which I've had before, but it seems to be kind of feel like it's in a different place. So I don't think it's plantar fasciitis, but I do know that that plantar fascia is a little tight. So it's something that I'm actively treating. So I abandoned that shoe because it just was not working for me. And I ran through one pair of shoes, put in about 350 miles on them, went and bought the second pair, and it was just getting worse and worse. So I abandoned the shoe. I switched over to Ultras. They make a 4 millimeter heel toe drop shoe, and I absolutely love the shoe. I have a road version and I have a trail version, and they work really, really well. Light. I feel like I have a good foot strike in them, but I still want to do something that has a higher heel toe drop. And so I went and did some research, went to one of my local shoe stores that I trust, and I bought a pair of, I think they're Karhu. They're a Finnish shoe. And so this particular shoe has an 8 millimeter drop. So it's a little bit even higher. And so the reason that I'm kind of implementing this is I want to do some of my longer runs and the higher heel toe drop so that can relieve some of the stress of the calf. And so what happens is the higher the heel toe drop is, the less stretch there is in the calf. And so by implementing this, if I can do like a normal run in like my Ultras and then do a longer run in the higher heel toe drop, then I'm engaging the calf muscles differently in those two pairs of shoes. And so I'm trying not to over engage, which is where you can get overuse injuries in your calf in different muscle groups. And it's not just by stacking on too much volume at one given time. It could be just how, if you're running in the same kind of shoe over and over and over again, the muscles are being engaged the same way over and over and over again. And so there's no variability in it. And so, they don't really get rested, but then, you're overworking them. So that's my thought process. And so this week, what I did, this is the first time that I've ran in these Karhus, and I did my 2 moderate runs in them, and they work really, really well. And I'm liking them so far. Not a whole lot of miles on them, so I'm still kind of getting used to it. I don't really like how the feel of that larger heel toe drop is, but I know this is something that I need to work on so that I can keep running. So this was a big confidence boost that I was actually able to see some paces that I haven't seen in quite a while, in a long time. And I know most of it is because, the run durations are kind of short. So I'm able to really kind of push the pace during those, but I'm still taking those walk breaks to deload. And so for my moderate runs, I was doing a 4x4. I don't think I need 4 minutes of recovery. So this week I have altered that proportion. And so next week, when I release another video, I'll push out, what that week's workouts are. So if you want to see what those are, just keep checking back. And every time you see these videos, you'll be able to go out to tabularasaracing.com and you'll be able to see my workouts. They'll be uploaded at the same time. And so this is a positive thing I'm taking away from this. So my run training was a success this week, and I'm looking forward to continue to build and progress. Next, we can talk about the bike. So back in June is when I thought my triathlon season was over, and I put my road bike in the shed and broke out the gravel bike, which I had set aside so that I could focus on triathlon, and really wanted to, ride in the bike position that I was going to be racing in. So my position on the road bike is different, very, very different than the way it is on my gravel bike. So my process going forward is my long rides are on Saturday. I'm going to have kind of like a moderate ride on a Sunday. So I'm doing double rides on the weekends because I'm not doing long runs because I can't recover from them. So my thought is long ride on Saturday on my race bike, on my road bike. And then the Sunday, I'm still going to ride my gravel bike. I like the way that it engages my muscles differently. It's a different style of riding, but I think I have seen significant improvements in my bike handling skills, my bike fitness, my strength and power, and my cadence by shifting from time to time over to this gravel bike. So I'm really, really excited about it. So my gravel bike is from Obed Bikes. OBED. I do not have a deal with them to where, I am sponsored from them. I am on a team. So I am on Team Zoot, which is like a team ambassador, an ambassador team. And Obed is one of the sponsors of the team. But, I don't get anything for free and I don't have to sell their bike. I bought it because I thought that was a good bike. I had great components, great price point, and good reviews. And I was sold on the customer service that they had, and fantastic bike. I'll absolutely love it. But the interesting thing is that I had put my road bike in the shop when I signed up for Ironman Florida 70.3 to get a complete overhaul. It has been a couple years since I've had my bike really kind of like broken down, recabled and everything else. I just have I think it's a 2014 Specialized Roubaix road bike with just clip-on aero bars and some race wheels. And so, it's nothing special, but I've ridden that thing to death. So I've got thousands of miles and it's got me through 2 Ironman, most of my half Ironmans. And so I know how to ride this bike and I love the bike. So I had it put in the shop, broken down. I actually had a new power meter installed because my old power meter died and I didn't feel like switching out my Garmin power pedals back and forth from the gravel bike to the road bike. So I had a brand new power meter put on and I just dropped about $1,400 to get my bike up and running the way that I want it done. And so it is rolling fantastic. It feels really, really good. New bike seat. And so it's doing well. And the same weekend that I got my bike back from the shop, I was out on my gravel bike riding. I think it was on a Sunday ride that I usually do before church. And I could feel something was a little bit off. And come to find out, I had 2 broken spokes and I was about 6 to 10 minutes away from the car. And so I had to kind of like crawl my way on the bike because there was no way that I was walking that far in bike shoes with my jacked up feet. And so, I rode it back in, but it's I still haven't taken the wheel in to be maintained and have the spokes replaced. And so I had to make an adjustment this week and no gravel biking. And so all of my stuff was done on the road bike. So what I'm doing now is I feel like I had a solid week, had a couple trainer sessions, some structured work on the trainer and my long ride that was on Saturday. So today is Sunday when I'm recording this, and today was supposed to be my gravel ride, but I made the pivot and did a structured trainer ride and still feel like I got a solid ride with some good intensity in it. It's not the same as being outside, but it will do. So I'm really focusing now on getting comfortable again in aero position because I haven't ridden in aero position since June, and now it is August that I have to rebuild that comfort level back. And, it puts my body in a different position. So I just have to be able to be comfortable in that and try and stay in that position as long as possible, because Ironman Florida has a course that you need to stay in aero as long as possible to really reap the benefits of that kind of course. So if you're going out and you're doing Ironman Florida, really kind of like any race course that is fairly flat, where you could have winds. I know that the full Ironman of Florida can have some gusty winds there, but you have to be comfortable in staying in aero as long as possible. So that's my focus. So I'm starting to build that back. So when I'm in my structured training sessions that are on the trainer, I'm trying to build those minutes in aero position. And, when I went out and rode this weekend for my long ride, I tried to stay in aero as long as I could, build that comfort level. It was a long time on the bike, so I am making progress there. My focus is doing some cadence work, and I feel like that has the biggest return on investment. I think that if I were doing a course like Lake Placid or something like that, where it's really hilly, the strength work would really kind of take more precedence, but I've done a lot of strength work already, so I have a nice, solid, strong foundation, and so now I'm just trying to build that muscular endurance. So I really want to develop that higher cadence and really keep that cadence between the 80 to 90 RPMs, and if I can hold it above 90, then that would be fantastic, but I'm not expecting that for race day. So I would like to try and see that cadence anywhere between 80 to 90, preferably like 85 to 90. And I just need to build that strength in order to do that. So let me check on this. So let's talk a little bit about the ride that took place, the long ride that was on Saturday. My plan was for a 3-hour and 15-minute ride. Before this plan started, I had built up to 3-hour rides on the gravel bike, and that was week over week. So I didn't just do it once, and I was building that comfort. And, it got better as I got used to that kind of duration. Now I'm switched over to the road bike. So my thought process was like, well, I'm actually going to be more comfortable on it because I have the clip-on aero bars. So I don't have to, rely on my muscular endurance, my muscular system to hold up, like I do on the gravel bike, where I'm have to riding on the hoods of the bike. Here I can use my skeletal system as I get down into aero, and I can rest on my elbows. So I thought it should be actually fairly easier. I think I underestimated the effort level. I rode too hard going out. So I live in Virginia, and I'm kind of like in the Richmond area. And so I rode on the Capitol Trail, which is a multi-use trail that spans between Richmond, Virginia, and Williamsburg, Virginia. So if you ride from Richmond to Virginia and then back again, you'll have a century. And so what I did was I started about 4 Mile Creek, which is in Verina, and I rode from there to Williamsburg. And so that was about 33 to 34 miles one way. And so I was thinking, wow, this is going to be solid. I'm going to have like a 66, 67 mile day. This is really, really feels like a big confidence boost. When I was riding on the gravel bike for 3 hours, I was getting about 45 miles, but you go a lot slower on a gravel bike. And so I was really kind of excited riding out, and I was having a great time out on the trail. So I think I rode too hard, and I paid the price coming back. About 30 minutes before the end of the ride, I kind of wanted to be off the bike, and my power was starting to fall a little bit. And, I was struggling. I was on the struggle bus a little bit for that. I think it was just poor pacing, and it's something that, that I need to work on, is allowing that ride to build. So the practice of that negative split, go a little bit easier on the first half so that you can really kind of like open it up a little bit on the second half. And that's what I want to achieve, is a negative split on the bike. We'll see if it happens or not, but at least it's good practice for the execution of the race day plan. When I got off of the bike, my stomach was not happy with me. I am testing out a new nutrition strategy for this race. I've been training my gut over the past few months, trying to increase my carb intake. I am a gastric bypass patient, so my gastric bypass was about 12 to 13 years ago now. And so it's been a long time. But I don't really process sugar very well, and sometimes it's a crapshoot. Some days are better. I could eat, a bowl of cereal, a bowl of ice cream one day, and eat the same bowl of ice cream another day, and have two different reactions to the same food. So I never really know. But I've switched from Scratch Sport Mix. And again, I do not have any affiliation with Scratch. I'm not sponsored by them, nor do I get any products from them. So I was using their Sport Mix, and I increased to their high carb mix. The reason for that is because I only want to take 2 bottles on this bike for race day. Ironman has limited the amount of hydration that you can carry on the bike. So I have a 40-ounce tank that I carry inside the bike, and I have a hose that runs up to my handlebars. That is just for pure water. And I have a rear hydration system with just 2 cages. But in the back, Ironman only allows you to have 2 now. So I want to only have the 2, and I want to be able to put my electrolytes and my caffeine in the same bottle. And so I have to try and figure out how to get the carb amounts that I need to fuel for the run in these 2 bottles. And so I'm testing out this new high carb. My goal right now, I am about 60 grams of carbs per hour. And that's something that I've built up to. And I have no intention of trying to aim for the 100 or whatever kind of crazy number some of these people are using. I'm not riding at an intensity that requires that amount of carbs, and my body wouldn't be able to process that amount of carbs anyway. So it doesn't really matter. So if I can get anywhere between 60 to 70 grams of carbs, that would be great. So this week I tried to take in the 60. I also use scratch gummies. And for some reason, I don't know if it was just palate fatigue, but when I got off the bike, my stomach was a little queasy and I just did not want anything sweet. I had packed a little protein shake and a protein bar that I would eat after my session on my drive home. And I've been doing that for several months now. And there was no way that I could just have anything sweet. So I ended up stopping somewhere and, grab some French fries and a sandwich because I needed something salty and just savory, nothing sweet. So that's something that I'm going to work on. I need to figure this out. I don't know if I need to replace the gummies with kind of like honey stinger waffles, things that, it's not as sweet. It's just a different kind of texture to go along with the liquid hydration that I'm going to be using. And so this is something I'm going to be experimenting with, but I'm doing this now. So in week 1 is when I recommend anybody to start testing out products, testing out strategies, looking at different feeding frequencies, feeding amounts, just really kind of toying around, trying to fine tune this process over time. So really you should have things ironed out about 3/4 of the way through your race or your training block. So that way in the last quarter, you know what your plan is going to be. So I don't know if it was palate fatigue that I experienced, or my gut just wasn't used to it because this is a new product. So I have to train my gut in order to tolerate it. Or if I was riding at an intensity that I'm not used to riding in because I feel like I rode harder. And I don't know if that additional intensity altered my body's ability to absorb nutrients within the stomach, which is a very strong possibility. So that's something that I'm going to be looking at over the next few weeks and see if maybe it was just some intensity. So if I can cut back on the intensity and I still feel a little queasy, then I know, okay, well, maybe it's not, I'm riding at an intensity and just continue to work, train, quote unquote, train my gut to tolerate this. So I think that's a pretty good summary of how my bike training went for the week. I think it was a pretty solid session. I feel I am really strong on the bike compared to where I've been in the past. I am handling hills and big gear work a lot better than I was just a few months ago. So my weight training is paying dividends now. And so this is a big confidence boost. So run, confidence boost. Bike went well. Working on pacing for the long ride when I'm off the trainer and, just focus on those. So the next one is swim. I have to say that it was a challenging week for the swim. It was a bit frustrating. I have been swimming consistently this entire time. And so I've had to I'm rebuilding my swim. And even when I thought that my triathlon season was over in June, I still continued to swim. And I actually changed the format in which I was swimming, and I put back the intensity because I was no longer having to worry about trying to build endurance to cover a distance from my earlier races. And so now I've introduced a little bit of intensity, but it was just the one workout that I had, and they're short duration intensity. So, it was nothing that was overloaded. And the other swim is more like a technical fundamental swim. So there's some drills in there that, I'm working on, improving the strength that I get in the catch because of my shoulder issues and trying to get that early vertical forearm, because it was to the point where I couldn't get the early vertical forearm and get that elbow up because I had poor rotation in the shoulder. And so I had no power in the pull on my right arm. And so that was something that I've been working on. And so I've been using these drills as a way to try and reteach my body that it's okay to get in that position and start to break up the scar tissue that's in the shoulders so that I can get that mobility and I can get that power in the pull. Because if you don't have the power in the pull, then it's going to throw off your breathing as well, because you can't generate enough pull to develop the little air pocket that's going to be in your shoulder. So when you go to take your breath, you have to over rotate and turn your head out of the water if you can't get this pocket to develop. And what that does is it flares out your feet and it throws you off balance. And it's that over rotation. So that's something I've been working on. It figures, it is frustrating. But the very first swim that I had in this plan, I could start to feel some heat in my elbows. And I've already had this one elbow surgically repaired. I went in and had tendonitis cleaned out of it, arthritis cleaned out of it, and the bones sanded down a little bit. And now I'm starting to feel it in the right arm. And this has me really freaking out because this was absolutely miserable to go through. And I can also actually feel it in this arm as well. And so this is something that I have to really stay on top of. I may not be able to swim with the intensity that I want, but I still need to try and build the endurance. And so that muscular endurance. So I still will be swimming. I'm building up my interval length, my interval duration, my interval lengths as the plan progresses. I may not be able to swim as hard as I want on my big effort days, but that is what it is. And this is part of the game. So being flexible and adjustable, which is not something that I'm very good at, because usually when I write the plan, that's the plan, and I'm going to try and stick to it. And I'm going to execute it the way it was written. And that's something that I'm working on as an athlete. It's pretty frustrating. I know I've got a couple elbow sleeves that I'll probably be sleeping in to try and take the pressure off as I sleep overnight. I know that my biceps are running a little tight, and so I don't know if that's pulling, that constant tension is really kind of causing some inflammation in the attachments right there in the tendons. But that's something that I'll work on. I've got a Theragun, so I will work on trying to relax my biceps a little bit more. I did have a massage this week, and I get a deep tissue massage every other week to try and work on some of these issues that I've got. And it's highly beneficial. It's working for me. My masseuse is fantastic. And I'm glad that, she's part of, my core team in trying to get me in and out of race days. So I will continue that. And, so the swim is what it is. I wish it would have gone better. So unfortunately, that's 2-1 in terms of confidence boost, confidence degrade a little bit, but that's all right. The next one is my strength. And so I have 3 strength sessions that are in my training plan, 2 push-pull days, which they are structurally different. So I do different movements on those days. And then I have kind of like a lower body leg day. This has been a foundation of my training and my ability to come back to the sport, and I am maintaining it in my plan. My approach, though, is different than what it has been over the past 12 weeks. Once I kind of shut my triathlon season down, or I thought it was shut down, I really shifted my focus to more generating power and strength and hypertrophy. And so I was really kind of like pushing heavy weight. I was lifting heavy, and I was pushing weight that I've never pushed before ever in my entire life. And so I was constantly trying to find that failure point, and it was a big confidence boost. And I think it's paid dividends on the bike. I've had significant strength increases in my upper body. So that's paid dividends for my swim and for the run. As you try and run with good form, you have to hold that posture for longer. And if you're weak in your upper body, you can't hold that posture, and your shoulders kind of collapse, and you hunch over, and then your core gets tired, and all of a sudden now you're just crumbling, and your form just falls apart. This approach is on muscular endurance. And so you will also see my strength workouts that's going to be hosted on the website. Those will stay the same. I don't change the workout from week to week, but I still try and progress and grow, whether that's lifting heavier weight with the same reps or trying to increase reps, finding failure points. But the focus is on muscular endurance. So I shifted from, 4 sets of 8 reps and trying to find lift to failure. And now I've shifted to 15 to 20 reps on some movements. Other movements, I'm doing supersets. And so, those we still limit to 8 reps, but only 3 sets, because you're really fatiguing that muscle group. And so you'll see that description, and it'll indicate on that, which one, the goal reps, say like 15 to 20 or 8 to 10. And so that's going to be my approach. And they'll stay the same until I get to about my peak phase of this plan, where my volume is really high, or what I call really high, for a half Ironman. And I will actually remove my leg strength training from the plan, because I'll be getting enough of it from bike and run. And I don't want to overload it too much. I still want high quality runs and bikes, and I don't want to run the risk of the leg strength conditioning taking away from that quality. And so this new approach is going to take some getting used to as I kind of adjust and really kind of like fatiguing the muscle for longer. So it's a longer time under tension. This week I was pretty sore. I underestimated how sore I was going to be, and those first few days were a little rough. So we'll see how this week goes. I'm ready, and I feel like I'm recovered. I'm not feeling that bad, so I'm feeling pretty good. So that was my strength. So those are the 4 main components of this training plan. I can talk a little bit about how my nutrition went for the week. I feel like I ate pretty well. So as a disclaimer, I do have a strength coach that I hired to help me build my strength plan. I don't work out with him. So he sends me, he's like, this is what this block is. And, I can ask him questions and things, but he just kind of lets me roll. And so I do work with him. I also have a nutrition coach. And so if you've listened to the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast, you've met my nutrition coach, because it's Coach Katie from Fuel to Run. She sets my weekly menus every week, and it just helps keep me on track. Make sure that I'm properly fueled. I'm getting the right kind of macro mix, and I'm fueling for performance. And this week I feel like I was pretty compliant with the menu. I am food logging, and I don't do this for long periods of time because it does wear on you. And so, but I am food logging for now to maintain accountability so that I see what I'm eating and she sees what I'm eating. And, there's very limited deviations. I do, find myself deviating a little bit from time to time where, I just feel hungry or I'm tired. And so, but that it was a pretty solid week compared to the way the past few months have gone. And so I'm pretty happy with that. And we'll see how this week goes. One thing that I do need to focus on is improving my sleep quality. The first 2 days of this training plan, I was up late working, on coaching stuff, because I do work a full-time job. So I work an 8-hour day job, and then I'm growing my coaching business of Tabula Rasa racing, and I'm training for this race. I'm a husband and a father. And so, my time is limited, to say the least. And so there were the first few nights as I was kind of like setting up this video series, and I was setting up some of the logistics that's going to be needed to make this successful. And so I put in a couple late nights and early mornings. And so I kind of burnt the candle at both ends those first few days, and it's taken me a while to try and catch up. I don't feel like I've caught up yet either. I had a really sleepy week, so I was kind of like dozing off from time to time. And so, I kind of lived on a little bit more caffeine this week to try and keep myself alert when needed. But, that's something that I think a lot of us can work on, is our sleep quality. Long gone are the days where, you can just run off of, 5 hours and still perform. I'm 48 years old, so I need sleep. But that's it. That's been the bulk of the performance for the week and what I've kind of done. The other little story that I'd kind of like to share is what kind of the past 4 years has been like for me and why it was necessary. Feel like, this week I kind of was thinking and, pondering this a little bit. It's like these past 4 years is what I would call been a breaking period for me. I needed to be broken. And, I was getting to the point where I was feeling like I was getting pretty prideful. I was like, I'm in control. This is my plan. I'm doing this. And, I am a man of strong faith. And so, I feel like I needed to have myself reset. And so I believe that, God allowed this to happen in order to break me a little bit and break my pride and kind of reset me and teach me, you may have come up with the plan, but this is my plan. I'm the one in control, and, you're not doing any of this without, not through me. What you can do is only because I allow you to do it, and you do it through me. And it's been a learning process, but it was necessary, I will say. And so I think it has humbled me. I feel like I am more grateful now that I get to return back to the sport that has been such a huge part of my life. And, listening to some of the other podcasts some of the podcast episodes, you'll see on how much, the sport means to me. and what it has done for me, what it's given me, both, physically, mentally, emotionally. And I feel like now I am at a more grateful place. I'm going into this with a lot of gratitude because I know that there were times where I questioned on whether I was going to be able to do this ever again after, some of the most recent surgeries. And I said, I'm done. There's no way that I can recover from this. But he's allowed me to do this, and he's allowed me to recover. He's given me the motivation, the determination, and the drive to do it. And I've put in the hard work, lots of tears, lots of sweat, and lots of hours, trying to rebuild this. But it has been absolutely worth it. And so, I go into this, like I said, with a grateful heart because I know at any minute it can be done. And so I don't take any of this for granted. So hopefully, if there's anybody out there who may be in a similar situation where maybe you've been injured or, you've got this time period where you're not able to compete like you want to, don't give up. Maintain some kind of activity level to where, you can kind of feel a little bit of a connection. And then when the time is right, you'll know when it's right. And I believe that you'll go into it re-motivated, reignited, because now my love for the sport is even higher than it was before. Because, I've been able to do this for so long and then question on whether you're going to do it. And then you kind of like working your way back in, just fuel to the fire, and it just burns and burns and burns. Yes, there's going to be stuff that I'm going to have to deal with. Can I run like I want and swim like I want? No, I can't, but I can run and I can swim. So I'm taking that as a victory, and I just have to roll with the cards that I'm dealt. And as triathletes, that's what race day is. Because if you believe that you are in control for those hours that you're out there on the course, I can tell you, you're not in control. There are few things that you can control, and those are the ones that you try to control, but you can't control everything. So what is called is control the controllables. And, I tell my athletes, and I tell myself this, is that, being a triathlete during race day, you get a master's degree in crisis management. And that's the sport that we're in. And training is no different. So it's crisis management. You're putting out little fires here and there. You're taking the victories when you can, and you roll with it. Hopefully, you've enjoyed this episode and this little storytelling on how the week has gone. I don't take for granted the time that you have spent listening to me to go on about how my week has gone. So I am extremely grateful and appreciative of the time that you invested listening to this and watching this video. Thank you. Subscribe, please, to the channel so that you will keep up, on whenever I push out another video, you'll be able to see kind of like the next step in this journey. And so I'm excited for what's in store and would love for everyone to join me on this journey as we approach Ironman Florida 70.3. You can go out to tabularasaracing.com. I'm going to get that web page built, I think, tomorrow. If you are watching this video, just kind of go out and see. There should be a page that'll be there. It's like, Ironman Florida 70.3 or something to that nature. If it's not there, it's on its way. So I promise you, because I'm going to be working on that. But you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, both at Tabula Rasa Racing. Check out the Endurance Athlete Journey podcast. There's a Facebook page, an Instagram account, and we're on Buzzsprout. So, all of the links that are out there on social media, if you want to see more and hear more about some of the topics that we talk about, some of the stuff that I bring out in terms of content, there's a blog that's out on my website as well, where I'm starting to ramp that up as well. I haven't been as consistent because writing is is hard task for me. And so I that's something that I'm working on. But again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to week 2 coming up on the road to Ironman Florida 70.3. And this has been the Endurance Athlete's Journey. Thank you guys. And I will speak to you again next week. Bye-bye.